Christopher Columbus was a good guy. Christopher Columbus was a talented navigator and a sailor who explored the world. He wanted to go to Asia, but found himself in the Caribbean islands. Columbus went on a voyage to set up a trade center and to find gold, so the money could then be used to protect the Christians in the Middle East by taking back Jerusalem from the tyrannical Muslim sultans. The various native tribes can be divided into the two groups. There were the good, peaceful tribes who were kind and generous. And then there were the evil, violent tribes who had a reputation of being cannibals. The different tribes waged war with each other and enslaved each other. Christopher Columbus said, quote, "Because I recognize that the native tribes, were a people who would be better converted to our holy faith by love, I gave them red caps and glass beads, in which they took so much pleasure and became so much our friends." End of quote. Columbus is saying that the native tribes should accept Jesus as the Messiah out of their own free will, and that the native tribes love Columbus. The native tribes thought that Columbus was a kind man, and they liked him. Bartolome de las Casas said, quote, "Columbus ordered that they should be treated courteously because they're the best and most gentle people in the world according to Columbus." End of quote. Columbus is saying that the native tribes should be protected from harm, and that people should be kind to the native tribes, and that the native tribes were a kind people. Robert H. Fusion, a translator of Columbus' logbook, said, quote, "Columbus expresses love and admiration for the Indians, native tribes. His affection for the young Chief Guacanagari in Haiti, and vice versa, is one of the most touching stories of self-sacrificial love, trust, and understanding." End of quote. Roger Fusion is saying that Columbus was kind and loving towards the native tribes. The native tribes loved Columbus, and the native tribes thought that Columbus was a kind man. Christopher Columbus said, quote, "I believe that in the world there are no better people or a better land. The native tribes love their neighbors as themselves, and they have the sweetest speech in the world, and they are gentle and always laughing." End of quote. Christopher Columbus said, quote, "Avoid doing injury or using violence to the women of the native tribes." End of quote. Columbus protected the native tribes from harm. Christopher Columbus said, quote, "Gold is a metal most excellent above all others, and he who has it finally uses it to send souls into paradise heaven." End of quote. Columbus is saying that the gold should be used in the service of Jesus Christ. And in this context, Columbus wanted to use the gold to fund a campaign to liberate the Christians in the Middle East from the tyrannical Muslim sultans. Bartolome said, quote, "Columbus hoped he would find a barrel of gold and prepare to go conquer the Church of Holy Sepulchre." End of quote. Columbus wanted to use the gold to fund a campaign to liberate the Christians in the Middle East from the tyrannical Muslim sultans. Columbus wrote a poem which said this, quote, "Preparing for the last days. Always the saintly men separated themselves from the world and always served Christ, suffering tribulations, sacrificing their own desires of the flesh and the pride of life, clothed with humility, restrain their passions." End of quote. Columbus is saying that he dedicated his life to service of Jesus Christ. Bartolome said, quote, "He Columbus observed the fasts of the Catholic Church most faithfully, confessed and made communion often, read the divine office like a churchman, and was most devoted to Our Lady Virgin Mary." Christopher Columbus was a sincere Catholic Christian who sincerely loved Jesus Christ. Later in life, Columbus began wearing a Franciscan habit robe and became a Franciscan friar.